Well, hello, and we are back for another intuitive abstract art journaling video. And welcome if you are new here. And it's this channel is all about following your intuition with art journaling as a breakthrough into abstract art. And it is not the only part of my art practice, but it is a very important part. So, as you've seen from my previous videos, we're working with one page at a time, one art journaling page at a time. And if you haven't checked out the last 3 weeks, here is one, which I did not paint the edges, and these are on 140-pound watercolor tablet, but not glued on the outer edges. It's just like a sketch pad, so they're a little different. So here's one with many transparent and opaque layers of paint, stenciling, marks, and collage. You might recall this one. And just last week's, where I started with a big shape, just starting differently rather than just my pencil, but I probably will do something to activate the surface. And I thought, I haven't shown you, after you have been practicing your art journaling with your layers and your colors, and things start to come together, you might want to try four different abstracts, and I will show you in this video how I start using 4 small taped together to get a mini series of intuitive abstract paintings in one go. So let's get started. Okay, so what I have here for this week, so it's small enough to fit under my range on my art journaling page. I have worked much larger. As I've said, I work on canvas and I work on wood panel. But this week, we are going to try 4 different, a mini series of 4 that's taped together. And the substrate we're using is Strathmore's Mixed Media, but I am very pleased to find out that it is also 140 pound. That's why I really like it. And when I put them together, tape them on this side, flipped them over, and then decided, well, if I do whatever I do, they look so much better with the crisp edge. So I decided to tape the edges. And this is what happened. I use the acid-free tape that you can order from Amazon. And there's a narrower one, and which is, I use both imperial and centimeters, so that's pretty close to a 1/2 inch, where the wider one is 6/8. So I use the narrower one in the middle, the wider one in the middle, because I wanted more of that edge. And then I used the narrow ones right from edge to edge. I didn't fold over, and it turned out to be wonderful, a 5x7. So, I mean, like right on. So when you buy mats, they come in a little bit more. So, if they do turn out, if not, you can just leave them separate. And I'll show you what I do with my mini series. I usually put them on a loop or in a page, but that's for another video. So stay tuned. And please stay tuned for my free I'm most likely going to be a 5-day mini series, a mini course, and putting all of these things together in a sequence, and that is coming up soon in March. So stay tuned and be ready to sign up for that one. So let's get this started. So last week, and I will leave a card for that video, which is just the previous one, I started with a big blue shape and then went on from there, starting to select less collage, keeping it very minimal. Because what's the reason for doing these mini-series? And I know some of you might want to, some of you might just want to keep using your art journal for the long time, but one day you might want to say, okay, now that I want to transfer what I've learned, how do I scale up? How do I move towards a coherent series? And this is one way that you can practice that. And then each time, what I've done in the past is made my pieces larger. As you can see in previous videos, it's probably in my mixed media category on my channel. And you can see where I've worked with 12 by 12s together, sort of overlapping. So they would be arranged this way. And there's a very, there's a very popular video that I have where I have 3 8x8s side by side. And it just allows more freedom and a nicer energy in your marks. So I'm going to use, so after you do that, it's important that I've learned that you seal the edges. So I just thought this is more of a technical video this week. And for that, I use gloss medium from Liquitex. You can use any gloss medium, excuse me. And then you want to seal, but it doesn't have to be gloss. It can be matte medium. I have both. And you can see on the paper here that it will leave a shine. But once you add all of your layers, it's going to be pretty cool. So some people don't mind the bleeding underneath the tape. I thought, well, if I can prevent most of it, I'm going to do it. And this has only taken me about less than a half an hour because I did it off camera. I thought, well, you didn't want to watch me tape up, but maybe you do. So leave a comment below if you would like more technical videos. And I am going to start making my videos a little shorter, a lot more specific. And it's really me practicing and clarifying my process, because I'm going to be making, or I'm in the middle of making, that free course. And the course is going to be how to set yourself up for a sustainable, intuitive, abstract art journaling practice that can be part of what you already do. It can be for beginners, and you only need some basic art experience elements and all that, but I'll probably include some basic information about that. So stay tuned. So here we go. Here are the edges, sealed as well as I can foresee. Now, if I did, and I hope not, have the intention of these being a series for someone, or for me, or for showing, or whatever, I don't really like to do that, and I wouldn't do that in this scale anyway. This is just for me, and if you're doing it, it's just for you. So what you're doing is you're bringing all of your learned knowledge from your mark making, your layering, and choosing your favorites, and then moving forward. So I think that's all we'll do. I'll just quickly dry that, and then we'll get started. Okay, it's still a little tacky, but it'll dry while I do a little bit more, give you a little bit more information as to what my intention is today. So my intention is to practice making a multiple, like a mini series of 4. I still want to explore this color palette, which is the following. A neutral. I went to dig out a bunch. It's unbleached titanium or parchment. Turquoise. Cerulean blue. Cadmium orange hue. And yellow oxide with black and white. So that's all I want to use. I'm going to be using the Liquitex Fluid black and white. I think if I do need something thicker, we can always add that, but that's it for my palette. And you might want to practice this if you are first getting used to colors and not knowing where to go. And I find a minimal palette the easiest way. You can even just have 2 colors with black and white. So I'm going to move my dryer over, move that over, so you can see me mix on my palette. Now my palette is a glass sheet. I think I just got it in the hardware store. It's just a glass chopping board type of deal because it's rough on the other side, so it doesn't slide. It still slides. So the orange, since it's the complementary of blue, is sort of like the punch, the hero color, if you will. And I like to mix those with ochres and orange and maybe even, but I'm not going to. So I'm not going to do that. Okay. I know I need more blue. So for this week, oh goodness. So this week, this is going to be a part 1, 2, and probably 3 video series. And this is just stage 1, part 1. And we're going to apply enough layers, 3 to 5 layers for the first phase. And so if this was in your art journal, you would have, like I did here, on the back, say if it would be on this page, so you'd have this writing there, or you can use your Intuitive Art Journal reflection sheet that I have for everyone, and I am developing this more, so there'll be more to this PDF, and it will be included in the free offering that's coming up. But this is available now if you would like it. And there's positive thinking, mindset, affirmation here, layers, colors, materials and tools. And what was my intention? Well, my intention is to start with big shapes and to see what would that look like as a series. And then I usually use thoughts and feelings or emotions afterwards. So last week, big blue shape, light blue. There's the list of my colors, my materials, and I usually put the ones that really worked. I did use the brayer. I used the color shaper, but I never ended up using the catalyst wedge. But that's what I'm going to start with today. And your intentions. Because when you look at it, if you're not, making videos or keeping a record of your work, you're going to forget your process of this particular painting, especially if you want to move forward using those. Now, I remember this was a mark. Then I went over it with the brayer because I love the surprise and the transparency it makes. These lines were made with these small line shaper bottles, things, whatever you call them. And I know a subscriber has let me know, thank you, but now I forget what it is. But that's okay. And what I'm liking is the composition that ended up, which was quadrants. See how each corner or each quadrant, if you were to find a line, that would be it, and that would be it there. So I was going to put a series of circles, just one, and this is a piece of collage. The dots, making sure, diagonally, and everything is relating. And I really loved how this turned out. So I'm going to see if I can repeat that. We're all dry now. Since these are smaller now, though, should I use the catalyst wedge or should I use the color shaper? Well, before I do, though, I am going to mix some colors. So I'm just going to tuck this over just a tad. Okay, and then we can rotate as we go. First things first, I want to activate my substrate. And I'm going to do it right now. And I'm not going to go so quick all the time. You see how that just goes into the other one? Going off the edge to the edge. Okay, that's it. All right, let's do a little bit of mixing. So that's the neutral with the blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it with the brush and then see what happens. Oh, I'm loving that. And notice the white on white tape, white with the white paper, and instead of using the yellow, which is really harsh on the eye, but it's very good and non-sticking. So that's what I figured out that I like to do. I'm liking how more transparent the Cerulean is. I'm just adding a little water, and it's a little cooler. I'm really liking that. Okay. So what I like to do, while it's still a little wet, is go over it with my brayer, which has been soaking. And I don't know if that was a good idea at this point. Probably not. But we'll give it a try. Oh, exactly what I thought. So we won't use that. We'll use the wedge instead. Now, if things start drying, remember this is paper, so you can only take so much. I'm loving that transparency. Ooh, and I'm going to switch to this because I know it will lift where the drips were more than the rest. And notice I'm not going over the whole thing. I'm loving those really interesting edges. That color, oh, here we go. Here we go. Great. Oh, well, that's what happens. Okay, I have to watch that. Okay. So what, I'm going to just let that dry, and I'm going to refer to what were the layers. Because I forget which sequence I used. And when you're changing the sequence, it has a big effect on the, the feeling of your piece. Not that I'm thinking of an outcome, but I know that certain order of layers create different things. So that's what I'm experimenting with. Different sequences of layers, starting differently, finishing differently. So my next layer was light blue. So I want to do that. And I remember using white. And we're thinking in threes, small, medium, large, big brush, medium brush, tiny brush, thick, medium, thin, those kinds of things. And what you want to do is you want to have your collage and everything set up all around you so you can just go with the flow once you're into that intuitive flow and keep going. Okay. I'm going to use this gloss here. I'm going to just make a reference. And I remember using a little yellow, a cerulean, white, a little of this. And I'm really finding mixing colors is way better than taking them straight out of the tube. They're more uniform, they relate. And I know there's the mother color and all of that. I'll be getting into that as I find. I've added a little bit of black. Okay. I want more white. See how it's still too close to that color? It needs to be lighter. I don't know if you can see with this light. You can see somewhat. You'll probably notice it better once I start applying it. Nope, not white enough yet. That's okay. Notice I'm using a smaller brush this time, but I still am going to add more white. And in this video, we will be, after it dries, we will be taking them apart. And then in the phase 2, that's when we add the second series of layers. Okay, so right now, I'm thinking I won't use this brayer, but I have a smaller one, which I like the idea. See, so what I'm doing is, I'm doing sort of the same steps, but of course, slightly differently. And I don't want those brush strokes in this particular mark. And you see how It's doing some lifting. And when you use a brayer, it can, like this, leave some really nice textures. Okay, so I'll just dry that. Okay, so as I wrote down, I noticed there was some lovely black and white. So I thought, okay, obviously the black was first because this white is over it. So I wanted to confirm that. And yes, so black medium-sized shapes. And then I went in with some white. And this is all before I even thought about collage, which, as I mentioned in some previous videos, that I just didn't want to use it, collage, as the sort of like my default. I want it more painterly, with collage being the accents or something like that. So I'm going to use my, not the smallest color shaper, but still a smaller one. We'll see how that goes. I might end up using the smallest one with black. Actually, I'm going to. I love the color shaper. Because then, so right now, what am I doing? I'm not thinking. I'm just responding. I might be thinking just to put differences, different size, see what different shape I can. So this shape, I'll respond to this one in relation to that one, and so on. I might think, well, I've gone vertical. Let's see if I can go horizontal. See if I can do something. So I'm doing a play of horizontal and vertical on each one. And as you can see, that was the feeling of this. That's why I'm doing it. Let's see what happens. Oh. Okay. I won't squirt all of them because I want to do a little bit of lifting, which is, to me, more of a transparent layer. Oh, I love that. Oh, let's go right across with that. Okay. Okay, now, scoring through. Oh, see that? It's still wet enough. So that's awesome. Sometimes you might, and see how this is on both? I love that. So you might be able to get it again, but it might dry quickly. That's just how it, oh, it did work. You can also use isopropyl alcohol, which you've seen me use a lot. And since we're working with paper, I won't. But when we move, when you sign up for my freebie and my course coming in the future, we'll be going forward with canvas, larger, series of smalls, and on wood panel. So hop on my email list and don't miss out. I'm going to squirt that one again. I don't know if it's going to do anything. Yes, it did. Yay. bit more of that effect. There, making sure you can see everything. Notice I'm scoring horizontal. Okay, I'll dry that. Okay, so sometimes there's a puddle. You can speed up your process by doing some blotting, lifting. Oh, look at that. That's really cool. Really like that. Oh, try not to make a mess like I am here. Okay, so now my next layer was white. All right. So I'm just going to, you can't see where I'm putting that. I'm going to put it right here so you can see it. It's on camera. So that blue is dry now, so it won't interfere with the white. I'm going to use, I think, another small brush. I might just add like the tiniest bit of blue. Oh, it's not as white as I'd like. That's okay. I'll show you what I'll do. So we'll do less of that. Notice where I place it is near a similar value. So I'm really thinking in values more than anything, but not doing too much thinking, just placing, just responding through previous experiences that you build up during your art journaling practice, and you record and you reflect. I'm a huge reflector, not only in my art, but in my life itself. In my teaching, as I'm still a full-time teacher, and that's just how we move forward and learn. So I covered all of that black. Now, even though this is still a little wet, I am going to use my brayer because I like those marks that it leaves. You can go horizontal, vertical. Very cool. Those are much better than the brush strokes. Oh, I like that one. Okay. So now I'm going to put a little pure white, which is right here. Oh, nope, still got some blue in it. And just on some of these, notice it's, now you have a combination of opacity, transparency, really cool. And now, since it's a little thicker, oh, that's really cool. You see, that's the texture I was speaking about. Oh, got a chunk. Don't want that. Okay. So we'll dry that layer. Okay. So if you noticed, I have some orange and yellow oxide to add, which are only going to be accent colors. And I am going to use my small color shaper for that. But I'm going to mix, whoops, some of the blue so they relate, some of the neutral, maybe make it a little more. Very nice. Okay. And I'm choosing the color shaper because I want these layers to be really transparent. Remembering to overlap onto the other piece from the other piece. So it goes, it's going past the edge. So the eye thinks there's a lot more going on. To make sure you can see everything I'm doing. So now I'm going to bring up the hue, but I'm going to put it inside the shapes. So I call this sort of intuitive shapes. So they're just starting now. And notice I'm just putting that hue, that stronger hue, in some areas, but not all of them. Just makes it pop a bit more. And I'm thinking small, medium, large. Threes. I love thinking in threes. Okay, that's it. So looking at it quickly, I just took a quick glance, and I don't want it so busy. And I probably will go over some of that, but let's dry it right now. Oh, before we do, let's scrape through, because there's some nice parts. I might do some calm lines, horizontal lines. Let's do a squirt here. Notice I do sort of ovals, breaking up this. I just don't want it to be the same all the time. But it won't be, because there's black underneath, there's white underneath, there's blue. Okay, and now I think I also want to do some lifting. So that's where I just use a small piece of newsprint. That's better. If you think you've overdone it, try this first. Try lifting your layer a bit, and maybe it being more transparent is all that it needed. And you can, that's when we get into mono printing. So I don't like that there, so I'm going to clean that up. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we will dry that layer. So far we have blue, light blue, black, white, the yellow oxide, so that's 5 layers. Oh, plus the pencil, 6 layers. So we're almost ready to just let this dry. But I think one more thing will be line. Okay, so while I'm drying, I'm going to turn it, move this out of the way. I know it's sort of cropped off, but let's go this way. I try to do that at least once or twice in the beginning stages, because then if you rotate or 90 or 180 or whatever it is, it stops you from getting attached to things where they are. And then you just see it in a whole new perspective. So before I add the last little bit of color, which is going to be a very small amount, I noticed I'm just going to put, so I love that it's peachy, but it's pretty powerful, so I don't want it everywhere. And I am putting it right on top of the yellow oxide. So I know I'm going to be adding collage with the similar color palette to these pieces. Notice I'm doing 3, so I'm just trying to stick to that, but in different ways each time for each painting. And I will score through those in a moment. Okay. There it is. Ooh. So now we're going right through the layers. So you might want to just lighten up your touch there, Michelle. And I'm just doing it a little bit. And I am going to come back in and do some lifting. Much better. Ooh, cool. And you have some really interesting collage that you can then add on to. Okay. We'll dry this. We have one more layer of black lines that I would love. And I think just for this one, I'm not going to use these at this stage. I'm going to use some China marker in white and black. And then I will remove the tape. And for next week, we'll start adding the collage. Okay. Black and white China marker. Notice now, see, those layers are going to go back because the line is above it. And the pencil line is the very first layer. So that's when you get all of these multiple layers happening. Notice I'm putting the white with the white, sort of carrying it over, so creating some overlap. Okay, now I don't want it to be too busy, but I know once I come in with my glazing, those will be pushed back and not stand out as much. So that's it for our first layers, or your first stage, which is about 6 layers. And I don't know if I should take the paint off now or let it dry and then add the collage, that's a good one. So I will definitely give that some thought. And so let's review what we did. So we have many layers. This is only the first stage. We're going to end up with 4 beautiful 5x7s. That may or may not be. Maybe you'll have one that you really like, or 2, maybe even all 4. And next phase, as you can see the back, will be collage. So this is just one way to start a series of small abstracts, learning from your intuitive art journaling practice using big shapes from last week's video. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hop onto my email list for the future things to come. Happy creating.